Hello, everyone, and welcome to very somber Trojan Day. Sam Arslanian, alongside Nathan Ackerman, wrapping up 2020. Horrible in every sense. College football fan, I guess outside of the top four every year, it's been a bad. Nathan, I wanna do a quick emotion.
I'm just I'm just really sad, man. I'm just really sad. Like I haven't been mad once in the last 2 days since they lost that game. I've just been so sad.
No, I feel that. I normally watch the game right after. Just I didn't watch the one after.
Can't do that.
That's not happening. I'm not doing 30 minutes before. Got Fire Clay Helton, Urban Meyer to SC in the chat. I missed that all season. You know what really made me feel good this season is it felt like things were looking up in the sense of like every time I posted something about USC football, I didn't get 8. It was just refreshing to just because like it felt like USC fans were really starting to believe again. And then that all goes away and their luck ran out. Here we go, Urban Meyer fans. I've said it before, I've said it again. Back to college for SC top candidate. But we'll get to that. Stay in here, Fire Clay Help. We have a special little segment where we're going to be talking about some of the chronic issues with this program, to put it lightly. Some may call it.
Don't sugarcoat it.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We'll get to it in a bit, but I want to talk about that game. Let's talk about what went wrong. The few things that went wrong. I'm going to start because I found a really interesting stat that I want. Okay. Nathan, in the first half, Oregon had the ball in USC's territory, start the drive 3 times. Okay. Every single one of those drives ended in a touchdown. Okay. USC, throughout the whole game, 1 time. You know what happened? A missed field goal. Okay. The issue with this team is they can't roll with momentum. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's bad momentum or good momentum. They can't stop another team's momentum. Can't get their own. Saw that with the onside kick to open half. Genius play, worked beautifully. Get that onside kick, and then you go 3. Josh on in the chat saying extend Helton. I know you're kidding with trying to our man in the chat. But the issue with this team can't roll. I mean, for God's sake, they started actually 5 drives. Oregon started 5 drives past their own 40. Right? That's the issue with gave them such good field position. A lot of those were on Keaton. Basically, every one of those interceptions wasn't anything like. Look at that BYU game last year. That's the last time I really remember him having 3 interceptions, and a lot of those were tip balls, throwing into super heavy coverage. A lot of these weren't that, but I have problems with 2 of them. Right, the second interception, I had a huge issue with. You had 2 checkdowns down, tried to force it into a very heavy zone, and it gets picked. Right, that's what we saw against BYU. That's what we saw a lot of last. Every time Keaton got picked, it was trying to force it in. And then the last one, obviously, everyone knows this. I know it's hard while you're gotta make sure it goes past the line of scrimmage. Tough to do when you're around the sideline, but I mean that's inexcusable. Keaton Slovis is still a great quarterback, still one of the best in the Pac-12. But the issue with that is those things need because you kill your momentum. That was your comeback opportunity. I thought they were going to get it drive. And Nathan, I've taken enough time of this. That's my main takeaway from this game, especially when I was looking at a couple other things. We have a meal in chat saying Oregon played bad at Cuban. Absolutely. Why don't you take it?
Yeah, what was the run pass breakdown for each team? Again, I think USC was like 28-52, and then Oregon's was 19-41 or something like that. And Oregon was doing it without their best running back. So, I said coming into this game, if Oregon's going to win the run battle, right? Oregon's run game is going to be better than the Trojans. If it's just like not. If it's not a catastrophic difference between the two, then USC is probably going to win this game. it was a catastrophic difference between the two. I think USC had 65 total rush yards on 25 attempts. That's just bad. That's just simply terrible, and that's something that can never happen. A lot of that, and a lot of Keaton's inconsistent, sloppy, just that was not a good game at all. And a lot of both of those problems came from the offensive line. I thought the offensive line might have been the worst game all season. And that was really discouraging for me because the first couple games, I was like, the offensive line is terrible. Like, this team's not going to be good if the offensive line does not improve. The next 2 or 3 games, especially the next 2 games, it was a little bit better. And I was like, okay, maybe Keaton can actually get comfortable with this offensive line. Maybe USC can actually run the ball with this offensive line. And they did that against UCLA last week. And then they took a massive step back. Oregon's front 7 just harassed Keaton Slovis all night. And yeah, it was that.
You mean
it
Kayvon
was just
Thibodeau.
not good.
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau, Mace Funa. Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Neil said we missed by.
Yeah.
We absolutely by.
Yeah. No, it was just the thing that was so frustrating for me was it was the problems we've seen all season. It was the problems we've seen all season, and it was the problems that I was like, if you go up against, I don't want to get too much into the coaching here because we're gonna have some fun with that in the second part of the show. But it was problems that if you say you're coming up against a team that is coached well and knows how to, watch tape and maybe understands what you're going to do, it's not going to work well. And it didn't work well, and they just looked so underprepared that entire game.
Yeah, I completely. Another thing I want to talk about is you look at Oregon's defense compared to U. The majority of tackles, I'm talking this strong majority. Let me pull it up real quick. Okay. 2 guys that were all over them all night. Mauga, Funga, and I'll even loop in Palomau. Mauga had 14 tackles, 12 of which were Funga, 12 tackles, 10 solo. That guy was all over them because he had to be. There was nothing else there. It was, and obviously he bounced it around. He goes in at linebacker or whatever. But the issue with this team is they're just so one-dimensional in everything they do that when they get past Talanoa Hufanga, they're going for a long time. Like that, they're going.
Yeah.
That's the issue with it. And that game, just everything fell apart. Their luck ran out. There's the issue with this is, as we talked about this before the show, Nathan, there is not, I would say, every single game this year, barring Wazoo, maybe if you want to loop it, I think you can't even do that. USC was outcoached. They were by far the talent. Every single game they played this year were outcoached. Look at that from the start of the game. That shows you the prepared. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want an excuse, not an excuse for justifying anything from a coaching level or from a player level. USC did play 3 games in 13 days: Sunday, Saturday, and then a Friday. Okay, that puts a lot of stress on their players' body, mental, everything. Oregon did have a week break before that, so there is a factor there, but you have to find a way. You're the better team. Oregon shouldn't even have won the North. But they didn't win the North, actually. They shouldn't even be in this game. But they are, and that's just more reason USC has to come out and beat them. That was the whole plan. That was, when we were talking before the season, like, if USC is going to make it to the Pac-12 championship, first of all, they need to play all their games, win out to get to the Pac-12 championship, and Oregon needs to win out and make it to the Pac-12 championship. Whoever does that should be. It's not going to matter if you can't do it. They can't beat Oregon. How can you not beat Oregon? And on top of that, this is the team you're competing with for recruiting. You just got their best recruiter, and then you go out there and lose. The problem is this program is just destroyed, and I want to move on to our next segment while I keep so I'm going to put up the graphic. But why is this team? And this is my issue. You can have the best recruiters in the world, okay? You can have the best video staff, the best hype videos, have swag apparel, cool stuff at the game. You can have an awesome marching band, song girls on the sideline, huge giveaways, these tailgate things. But you know what? None of it matters unless. That's the issue. And the worst part about this is it all looks even worse. These hype videos make USC to look out like a team, like they were. Obviously you have the video editors from LSU here here this year, right? And they make them look out to be LSU. Videos are sick. They make USC look awesome, and that helps with recruiting. Okay, this Boulevard Studio stuff helps with recruiting, but recruits want to go to school, win, want to go to the playoffs. They want to play in big games. Nathan, why is this team so?
So I want to talk about the press conference after the game, and at that point, like, I was too sad to even care, to be honest. But I clocked in, and there were a number of things that rubbed me the wrong way. I'm going to start with the first one. Clay Helton said that our expectation here, what we are judged on, is winning championships. Now, he was referring to Pac-12 championships. Let me just say, the Pac-12 championship, year in and year out for USC, should be almost a given, especially this season when this was the most talented USC team in 3 years. I'm speaking this from a 3-year perspective because I've been here at this school following this team for 3 years. This was the most talented USC team in 3 years, the least talented Oregon team in 3 years. I think both of those facts are pretty much undisputable, and USC still could not get the job done. Now, the bar for this team is to win a Pac-12 championship, to go to the Rose Bowl, to win it, maybe even to go to the college football playoff. At the very least this year, go to the Fiesta Bowl and win that game. At the very least, finish in the top 10 of the CFP rankings, AP poll, to put them in a good spot next year, whatever. But Helton is lowering the bar so low that he's saying we are judged by the expectation. The standard here is to win a Pac-12 championship. That's not the expectation. That's not what you're judged by. That's what you should be doing every year. That bar is so low, can't even get that done. Now, USC, right? In the 3 years that I've been here, it's the same story every single time they play a big game. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Let me ask you this, Sam. How many times in the last 3 years has USC played a big game and won it? I'll tell you. 2018, UCLA, big game, lost it. 2018, Stanford, big game, lost it. Texas, big game, lost it. Oregon, they didn't play Oregon that season. BYU, that was a different season. Okay, but they lost all of those big games that year, right? They lost the Notre Dame game in 2018, which was fair because Notre Dame was a great team, but still, that's a game that you should compete in. 2019, Holiday Bowl, lost it. Oregon, lost it. BYU, first road game, lost it. Oregon, lost it. The only big game that they won that season was the Utah game. Oregon murdered them. The only big game that they won that season was the Utah game, and the game plan for that was have Matt Fink throw up a prayer and hope that Michael Pittman was down there somewhere. And he usually was because Michael Pittman is awesome. 2020, big games, there was one. It was Oregon. They lost it. And it's always discipline. 8 penalties, 9 penalties for 98 yards in the biggest game of the season is not going to cut it. Isaiah, in the post-game press conference, right? He said, Coach always tells us when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. And I haven't stopped thinking about that, to be completely honest, because at least Helton acknowledges that when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. But what have you seen him do to stop that, right? College football players are going to be emotional guys. When they play big games, they're going to be emotional. It's a head coach's job. It's not Helton's job to call defensive plays. It's not Helton's job to call offensive plays. It's Helton's job to get the most out of his talent and have guys play, but do it smartly, and they haven't done that in the last 3 years. So it shouldn't be just a fact that, oh, when it's an emotional game, you're going to play stupid, you're going to do stupid penalties, whatever. Some of that is on the players. There were some stupid penalties there, but that is largely a head coach's job. Now, don't give me the COVID excuse for the reason why USC didn't win the Pac-12 this year. You could argue that COVID gave USC's cakewalk to the Pac-12 title even more of a cakewalk this year. And the reason why is that the first 3 games that the Trojans played were against teams playing their first game season. The next game that the Trojans played was against a poor Washington State team that hadn't played in 21 days. The next game was against UCLA. That was a fine game. I will give them that. The next game was against Oregon, who didn't even win the Pac-12 North, who shouldn't have even been playing in that game. Yeah, I get it. They had 2 weeks off. It was 3 games in 13 days. That's an excuse. USC should have been the better team. They should have coasted all season. Instead, that 5-1 was almost 2-4. They barely beat a Kevin Sumlin coached Arizona team, who's maybe one of the worst teams in college football. Barely beat Arizona State. They looked underprepared that whole entire game. UCLA, miracle comeback. This team, that should not have happened, right? The cardiac kids thing was fun until it wasn't, right? And it got not fun on Friday night. This team needs to go in a different in a different route because it's the same problems every single year. There's no discipline. They don't show up in the big games, and a lot of that comes back to Clay Helton.
I completely agree with you. And here's the thing: that big game thing. I was here an extra year before here, in what was a relatively good season, and people love to say, "Yeah, it was still Sam Darnold." Whatever it was, there were still big games they lost there. I mean, they were number 4 at one point in that season. They go up to Pullman and lose to Washington State, who they should have beat. No doubt, that was a win. That was a guaranteed win. And granted, they did go to a Pac-12 champion, beat Stanford. Great. But you know what happens when they get on the national stage? They get slapped.
Yep.
They get walked out of there. And now here's some truth. I'm going to drop some truth here. For the past 2 years, actually, I'm going to take it back even further. In 2018, I became the sports editor of the spring. Okay, I received a text during my RIT 150 class, and it was my co-sports editor saying, Helton resigned. But the difference was my co-editor didn't put a hyphen there. It says, signed. My God, he's gone. And then I'm like, I leave class and I call him. He's like, yeah, he just resigned until. And I'm like, oh, okay. So for the past 3 years, I've been thinking, okay, we have him until 2023. This is going to turn around. And I didn't know if it was the right move to fire him after 2018. Okay, that's fine. You lost a lot of recruits. It was a rebuilding year. Fine. 2019 comes. Absolutely the right year. Need to fire him. New athletic director. They finish strong. Whatever the hell that. They don't fire him. Now you have this year. It's a 5-1. We lost one game, and granted, it was against a good Oregon team who isn't even that good, but that's what they'll frame it as. Clay Helton's not going anywhere. That's the issue. And I'm sorry, I'm speaking true. Urban Meyer's not coming, regardless of the fire Clay. I want it. I think it would be awesome, but it's not going to happen. I know that. This administration would absolutely never do it. I wrote a column that said they won't have that Clay Helton or Urban Meyer is not the right pick. And I was saying that because it's not going to happen. This administration will not hire. I promise you that. Okay?
Yeah.
They will not fire Clay Helton after. That's the okay. USC is financially crippled right now. This institution has dealt with so much in the past. They've dealt with bad doctors at the school, paying out settlements, dealt with the admissions, and then COVID on top of that. They don't have the money. This dude makes $4.5 million per year, right? To buy him out of his contract, that's a lot of money. $13.5 million, Nathan. They don't have that right now. Yeah. And on top of that, they have to pay a coach. And if you want a top-level talent like Urban Meyer, they got to find the money from somewhere. If it's going to come from boosters, great. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think this.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. I don't think it's going to happen either. I think they're going to look for every excuse not to make it happen. But at some point, you can't justify this anymore. I have a feeling that there are plenty of boosters that I think would be more than happy to cover a lot of that cost. Nobody's going to fork over $20 million, whatever the buyout is on their own, right? But I think USC, when you couple that with the fact that maybe now they're going to be winning some games, maybe now they're going to be bringing people to the Coliseum. The Coliseum was having trouble filling up even after they took out 20,000 seats. That shouldn't happen. You should be able to bring 75,000 people to the Coliseum 6 times per year. It's not happening this year or next year. Obviously, not this year, of course. I mean, okay, it didn't happen. It's not going to happen next year under Helton because people aren't getting excited about this team, right? I don't think that a coach would entirely pay for himself in the next year or two, right? But over time, when you get a program that's like successful and you get people that are willing to pay for it, because there are a lot of boosters, a lot of donors that don't want Helton around anymore, they would make a lot of that money back. It's not going to happen because they're going to find a way to justify it, and I'm sick of it.
No, 3 years. This comes back to the whole thing. We have an army. We have a very talented. Everyone on our army, sharp shooter, hit them right between the eyes. But there's have a lot of guys put them out on the field, and that's why they're able to win those games. Because you go up against a UCLA struggling, kind of, Wazoo struggling, the Arizona who's struggling, and Arizona State who is struggling, and end up winning those games with talent. That's how they're able to do games. Those big games, it comes down to coaching. Like I said, they were out schemed. every single game this year. Maybe not Washington State because for some reason they decided to play man coverage on. I do not understand. Had a lot of DBs out and maybe cover the guy and hope it goes. It didn't work out. So maybe every game. They're going to keep losing,
including
keeping Helton in. Got a chat. They're going to keep losing a lot more money to keep Helton in. No, I absolutely know they will. It doesn't change the fact that they don't see that and they acknowledge that. They're not going to fire a coach after. I will be appalled if they get rid of this. I have absolutely no idea.
This is
I've
my
been
thing.
covering this school for 3 years, Nathan, or 3.5 years. This athletic department. I covered it under Lynn Swan. Now Mike Bone. I've seen everything, and it's not going to happen,
dude. You know what? One of their main excuses be it's going to be the fact that this was a COVID season and we don't want to make changes based off of COVID season. Guess what? There's a pandemic for literally every other college football team. There's a pandemic for literally every other football team in the Pac-12. It's not just USC. It's not. There's a pandemic for Oregon too. And I just laid out the reasons why the pandemic made USC's cakewalk to the Pac-12 title game even more of a cakewalk. I get the emotional toll that it has on these players, but every other team was going through that too. And again, that is a head coach's job to say, look, we need to take advantage of the opportunities that we are given. This should have been an easy road to the Pac-12 championship, the easiest that it's had in the last 3 years, and it didn't happen.
Well, the other thing is, you talk about these coaches not being able to control the players. You've got guys dancing field. They throw that interception, get an awesome 3 and out, and they're still down by 7 points. They're going to get the ball back on their 20-yard line or whatever, and you have Elijah Griffin dancing out there like they just won the game with the sack. You're down. You're still losing. You have 30 seconds. You're not going to win the game. If you win that game, it's a miracle, right? And that should be, God, we dodged a bullet there. Not get up and dance. Like, it doesn't make. And listen, fire Clay Helton, or I agree. Dude, I've said, come on, man, myself. I'm speaking it how it is. And if I had to put all my money on it, they're not getting. Should they? Absolutely. 100%. Clear house. That's the T. That's what I got, Nathan. Do you have anything else on this? Or I want to move on. We're going to end on a happier talking about some things that I think it looks like Nathan. So I'm going to see if we can get him back in a second. All right, let's get back on. So we got Emil Jones in the chat, guys. Let's put the season behind us. Let's talk about 2021. What's possible? Emil, I am so. We're going to talk about some draft stock. There's a lot of players that could leave, could return. If I'm a player, there's the discussion between, hey, are they gonna? Should I come back for another year? Can I raise draft stock a little bit more? Hurt it a little bit. Where do you go here? Players like Tyler Vaughn's, Elijah Vera Tucker's on. Nathan, do I have you back with me now? No. Do you have those guys that are obviously going to, right? But you have a lot of guys that aren't. One I want to point out, Illinois, who that guy raised draft stock, showed he's versatile, showed he's able to pretty much every put in, showed that he's able to play, showed that he's been out attack, intercept the ball, force fumbles. I feel like it was 4 straight games with fumbles. And that's great. He's a player that really raised his draft stock if he decides to stay another year. But this guy looks really good. Nathan, have you back now?
Yeah, sorry about that. Elijah Vera Tucker to me is a guy that this year he went from like I don't know, early second round, late first round too.
Looks like
He
we
should be probably a top 15, 20 draft pick, right? We knew that he could play guard. We knew that he could block
looks like we
against the
lost.
run, but
Oh, no.
in the Pac-12, against the Ducks on Friday. But he looks like a guy that I think what he did this year in an offensive line that just made him look all that much better because the group was just bad. He boosted his draft stock a bunch, and I think he's going to be a top 15, top 20 pick for sure, based on what he did at tackle, showing that he can play both spots. He's probably going to be a guard in the NFL long term, but he can certainly play both.
Yeah. Emil Jones just said I would start by getting the year, and that's what I thought this year could be. Bodied up, won that Pac-12 championship, and then really good matchup against good big testable. I thought they could have finished 7-8, and that would set them up. But we have to see. But I want to talk about Talanoa. This is a guy that you want. He's versatile.
Yeah.
He listens well, and he is a. This guy,
Yeah.
He studies film. Like, he is constantly, and I love that from him. I love a guy that's going to go in there, get his job done, and do. Talanoa did that every single. He is the best player you can have. Best type of player. Makes an impact on every. He adapted more than Todd Orlando did this to defensive scheme.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, I mean, if he wasn't out there, USC would have been. He saved.
Yeah.
Do I think he's going to?
He's also like,
I hope.
Yeah. He's also like character-wise, he's one of the best guys you want on your team because he is one of the nicest people on the planet. I had a couple classes with him. I know you've had a couple classes with him too. He's an awesome guy. He's super nice. He's intelligent. And when he gets on the field, he's the same, but he wants the smoke, right? He'll talk smack to guys. He'll hit guys hard. He's a competitive guy. He's got the fire. USC doesn't even make the Pac-12 championship game without him. They probably go like 3-3.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the big thing. I don't remember a single stupid penalty from him, barring the roughing the, which can kind of excuse just because he's not making dumb penalties. I don't know that was necessarily dumb in this. It's super easy to prevent. Once you're lunging at a guy like that, it's tough to call that a dumb penalty. When you're obviously, it would have been nice if it didn't happen, but it did happen. And I can excuse one in the last 3 years. Okay?
Yeah. Well, they also needed a big play in that spot too, right? I mean, even if they were to get the ball back there, they had a chance. But if they were to block that punt, maybe get inside the red zone, like, I don't know. That's a huge momentum swing, and we know how well USC can capitalize on momentum swings, which is not at all. But still, I don't mind him trying to make that play in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't mind it, but I think it's gonna be really interesting to see who ends up going to the draft. I want to watch Alamo. I want to watch Hufanga. I want to see what Amon Ra does. Injured in the second half of that game yesterday. I mean, that's something. Hey.
Yeah, they're going to lose a lot of talent.
Rick Jackson,
sophomore. He's here for one more year.
That's a huge leap, but this is going to be a run. I'm sorry, it's going to be bad.
Yeah,
I really have very low expectations. And very low. They're going to win games, but they're not going to win. They're going to. God don't.
Dude, San Jose State.
Yeah,
not bad. First game of the season. We know how well USC plays in season openers.
I wanna make a very early. Where does Elijah Vera? Get done quick. We got it.
17.
Damn, you just took mine.
Really?
You know what?
Great minds think alike.
I will go with 18, just so I'm not the same as you. I'll go as 18. We don't even know who's gonna have that pick, but I'm gonna go 18. Just because I think he's a little bit lower in the draft than. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see if there's a combine. I hope they do it over Zoom. obvious reasons. And
Yeah.
fire Clay Hell and Urban Meyer keeps on going to the chat. I'm not giving this team a lot of. I'm not giving this credit. I'm giving the players a lot of. Some of the players. Oh, fun guy.
Yeah.
These guys put the team on their back every single game. Ever had. I'm not giving them credit. I'm not giving the team credit. I'm giving the ones that have really stood out this year. Made this season. They weren't there. We wouldn't even be talking about it. But I got to wrap the show. We are at our time. Nathan, thank you for sticking along with us through this entire season. Fun time. I'll have more
It's been
shows.
a pleasure.
Stay posted. We got basketball content coming up here on Dash Sports. Trojan fans. But once again, you can find us on the web at www.dashsports.tv or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Maybe even YouTube. Yeah, find us there. Subscribe to us at Dash Sports TV. As always, you have columns published exclusively Sports Pac-12. You can find them on the web at sportspac12.com. Follow them on Twitter at sportspac12. What else am I missing? Been another episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for the chats. Not going to happen. Clay Helton sticking around. Sad about that, but we're going to have to live with that. So until next year, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, a good recruiting cycle. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. This is Trojan Dash for Nathan Ackerman. Yes.
One final shout out to Emil Jones. Been there every week. All of our mainstays in the chat. Emil Jones, you have risen above the pack week in, week out. We appreciate your continued support.
Thank you, Emil. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This has been fun. And signing off after a very somber Friday night. I'm Sam Arslanian for Nathan Ackerman.